today's episode, my guest is going to take you on a journey to building an international clothing brand fresh out of Manchester. A huge brand which is the Couture Club. Ross has a brilliant story.
Every day I had to be better than the day before. Actual school work I really struggled with and I found it really hard. Like, for example, you talk about something being in a class and I physically couldn't remember what was said.
We also touch on his race driving career and his reality TV days and how they both played a huge part in building his business to where it is now.
I stopped racing when I was 21 and that was purely out of the fact we couldn't afford to race anymore. I think my final year we managed to raise about 120 grand from sponsorship and the other kids I was racing against were spending 1.4 million a year. We got to the end of the year and we'd literally barely made anything. Both of us, we were like, wow, what have we done here?
Ross, thanks so much for coming on, man. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And firstly, and most importantly, how is fatherhood?
It's challenging. I'm going to be totally honest about it. I think not enough people say how hard it is. Like, it's the most rewarding thing at the same time, but it is hard. It's tiring. I think it's probably harder when you work as much as we do. Definitely. And things like that. That's the struggle, but I love every minute of it. He's just got to the stage now where he's starting to laugh. You see really finding his
character start coming out.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, yesterday I just had him giggling all day. So it's getting really fun now. Yeah.
And a boy, I'm telling you, I've got two boys. Hectic. Yeah. They're like, I've got friends with girls and mine are just a complete different beast. They're just nuts. I think it's a boy thing.
Yeah, 100%. Because I've spoke to, again, my business partner. He's got a little boy and a little girl. And he said, when he had the girl, he was like, it's just a breeze. Like, it's so easy. It's so independent, things like that. And I was like, right, well, I've got to struggle for a few years. But I think
it flips on his head after.
Yeah.
Girls start getting harder.
Yeah.
And then the boys maybe get easier. It depends.
Yeah, well, I think for every guy that's been out a lot, I think it's always a nerve-wracking time when you have a girl. And you think when they get to the teen years and they start going out, then you're like, oh, no, this is going to be trouble. But, I love it, mate, every second.
So how have you found it in terms of running the business and
being honest with you, I have found it quite hard. I think you have that kind of moment of, because you're waking up and you're constantly doing something all the time, of feeling like you're chasing your tail all day. Like, I'm leaving work slightly earlier than I would do to get back just to bath him and put him to bed and things like that, because I don't want to miss out on them moments, and then I'll jump back on my laptop. But my whole day is kind of feeling like I'm chasing. Sometimes you feel like you're not doing any of it great, but you are, but you just feel like that. And it's kind of, I think that's been one of the struggles, but also just like when you've had a weekend, like I spend all my weekends with him, I absolutely love it, like every second of it. But when you've had a full weekend with him and you go to work, you're like, oh, I wish I was with me. I nearly had him walking, or I nearly had him doing something. I could want him a few more days, but I've got him all day. And it's just that kind of development side of things where you wish you had more time and you could give more. Yeah. But like my missus is amazing. She's a great mum and she's been brilliant with him. So while I'm at work, obviously she's with him all the time and she's doing everything she can. So I've got great support around us as well with her family, my family. So
that's so important, Growing up with mine, man, we wasn't in a place where I was close to my family or her family. So it was super tough. Us there by ourselves. So that's one thing we always are grateful for when we're a little bit closer, is having them closer by.
Yeah.
And we're jealous of other families that have their like mums close by where they can like pop over, go for a sleep. That's just like.
Do you know what it is?
The best.
We're so fortunate in that we were chatting before, and obviously I said to you that I live quite away from my work. It takes me an hour and a bit each day, but the bonus to that is having her family and my family within 5 to 10 minutes from the house.
Definitely.
But then you do always get this kind of like, when you're asking anyone to help out or anything like that, when it's family, you almost feel like a little bit guilty, do you know what I mean? But
like pushing the kids on them.
Well, yeah, or just like if they've got their own plans and things. Whereas if it was, say, for example, you had a babysitter or a nanny, or something, you're paying for it, so it's their duty. But when it's your family, you feel like, oh, I wonder if they think we're giving them too much or anything like that. Even though they don't have them as much as a lot of people I know. But it's every second they spend with them, they love it as well. Like I was at a wedding on Friday, and so was my partner's parents. They were at the same wedding. So my mum and dad had Mason. It's like they loved every second. It was like leaving him with him. You'd think you'd feel a little bit guilty, but when we got back, they were like, "Oh, we've had the best time ever." You just got to, use the support you've got, and enjoy it and let them enjoy it when they've got him. But,
yeah, definitely. So podcasts. I know you've done a few before. What's your thoughts on podcasts? How do you find them?
Listening or being on them?
Both.
Listening, I absolutely love them. It's probably one of my favourite things. Where I used to listen to audiobooks for a while, just because I spend a lot of time in the car driving. And I've probably switched majority of my time now to listening to podcasts, just because I do like always listening to something real life and relatable that's happening right now, or someone that's, you know, dealing with stuff day to day right now in a business, in this climate, in everything that's going on, rather than necessarily, you know, some of these audiobooks that might have been made years ago. And things are different, and there's a lot of changes going on in the world. You've got to adapt to things. There's loads of different social media channels that are here now that weren't there when some of these books were made and things. So I think podcasts are the way forward. I love listening to them, and being on them, I probably enjoy them just as much as you do, because you learn so much about each other, and it's probably one of the best kind of conversations that, you know, normal life probably doesn't give you that often. When, you know, if you're out with your mates and you're having a really good conversation with someone, everyone's like, come on, mate, like, get involved. So
When do you ever really sit down for an hour and actually just talk completely?
And no one's really there to kind of, you know, you've got no other purpose other than talking. So I think it's probably one of the most important things right now. You actually come out with them sometimes, when I've done them, and felt like, wow, I've had a bit of a therapy session in a way by chatting.
And I think you learn maybe a little bit more about yourself as well.
100%.
Speaking about everything you're doing.
You definitely learn more about yourself, and then you also go away and probably like once you've discussed certain things, you think, no, you know what, I'm going to change that, and then you go away and you kind of start working on things as well. So I love it. Yeah.
And what was your kind of thoughts when I first reached out to you about, you know, you've seen it called The Money Game? What was your initial thoughts about it? And what did you think it was about?
I thought, without listening to anything before, when you first reached out, I kind of figured out in my head what I thought it was going to be, and very much about investing, you know, financial freedom, all that kind of thing. So I was pretty much there or thereabouts, would you say?
Yeah.
But that's what, when I did listen, I was super excited, because I think all through life, you get taught about simple things, and you get taught, you know, stuff that you probably don't necessarily use all the time. Whereas this topic, for me, is probably one of the most interesting topics.
Yeah, you said it was your favourite topic, didn't you?
Yeah, it's like
what specifically about it is like your favourite?
For me, financials, talking about them, I was terrible at school. Like, I really wasn't very good at.
So that is real trend. Real trend with the guests that come on. They're all so they're bad at school.
Yeah, anything other than like art, I wasn't good at all. I was at the time I used to race go-karts and then moved on to racing cars. So I was focused on what I was doing outside of school, probably. Yeah. But the finance thing is one thing. Like, I suppose for me, I really wanted to be successful. I stopped racing when I was 21, and that was purely out of the fact we couldn't afford to race anymore. And my sponsors,
it's an expensive sport, huh? Racing.
Yeah, the level I was at was, you know, I think my final year we managed to raise about 120 grand from sponsorship, and the other kids I was racing against were spending 1.4 million a year.
Serious.
And that's kind of a lot.
Where was you getting the funding from?
Engineering businesses, companies that wanted to advertise on racing cars. Everything else racing was on ITV4 and things like that. So it wasn't ITV1, it wasn't prime time, it was just on a Sunday while we were racing. So it was always a super challenge, because you can't guarantee time or anything like that. It's not like a football game, and, you know, you've got a banner on the side of the pitch that's there for the whole game. You could be leading the race and you might not get any airtime because you're ahead of everyone. You could crash on the first corner and get zero. For a sponsor, it was a hard thing to gauge. So I have people reach out now, and I'm like, as much as I'd love to, because that was the reason I never continued. I can't back it, you know, in that way. But
yeah, you enjoyed it.
Yeah, the racing and my childhood and everything was unbelievable. It was the most amazing thing. But the reason I stopped racing was because I ran out of money, so I became interested in making money. And I think once you start becoming interested in making money, then you become more interested in investing in money. And then what's your money doing that you've got in your bank versus necessarily, like, when I was younger, I probably just wanted to buy nice things all the time. And then you're like, right, that doesn't actually feel amazing once you start doing it. And, you know, you've bought something, worn it a few times, and you kind of not even love it as much as you thought you did. And then it's stuck there kind of thing. So got interested in investing and making money work for me as well, just more for the long term, really, and the financial, you know, freedom for my family and, you know, my kids, and then hopefully my grandkids down the line and things like that.
Yeah. At which part did that start becoming important to you?
Probably the last, I think, first of all, when I started Couture Club, I really just wanted to, you know, have nice things, probably.
Yeah.
Being honest with you, it was one of them where I was interested in fashion. I used to see everyone, and I always wanted to wear designer clothes, but I couldn't afford to wear them. And that was partly the reason why I wanted to start Couture Club and, you know, give affordable luxury, like, you know, products that are as good as some of the designer products out there, but just at a lot more affordable price. So initially, I wanted to, you know, make the money to be able to, you know, wear nice things and wear what I wanted to wear and do nice things. And then as the business started growing, I probably started understanding business more. I had no business experience at all. So then I started understanding, well, what does like money do? Like what's it doing for me right now? If, you know, if interest rates back then, you know, it was probably a lot less than they are now.
Of course.
So even then I was thinking, how can I make more than that so that my money in my bank's actually doing that?
Yeah, no, interesting.
I really hope you're enjoying the show. I would just like to ask for 1 minute of your time to tell you about my sponsor whose support makes the show possible, CPC Finance. CPC Finance is a finance broker that specializes in sourcing and packaging a wide range of property funding. You name it, from buy-to-lets to commercial properties, auction investments, property developments. They are everything you'd want as a finance broker working for you on your property deal. They're extremely experienced. They know their market extremely well, which means they can move quickly. They're on the ball. They've been in the game for 30 years, which has enabled them to, one, build very strong relationships with a variety of lenders, which as an investor is super important, especially when things don't go to plan. Deals in certain situations aren't straightforward, which is often the case. They are bespoke specialists. And two, they have a brilliant understanding of all types of property investing. They know the strategies, they understand deal structures. There isn't anything these guys haven't seen, you know, they're seasoned pros. So if you're someone looking for property finance of any kind, go to cpcfinance.co.uk, and on the homepage you can schedule in a call at whatever time or day suits.
So owner of Couture Club, which is interesting for me, and something I wanted to do is get someone that has a fashion brand on, especially one successful like yours as well. It's because I have a few friends that have fashion brands as well. And also it's quite a trend in football. A lot of players have fashion brands. I know two that have fashion brands. So it'd be good for them to hear this. So that would be a good thing for them. So it'd be good to get some information from you there. They sent me like loads of questions to ask as well. That's why I had so many, because they're really interested in you and your brand. But for someone who don't know about Couture Club, how could you give them an insight into kind of like, without being too modest, where the business is at, the size of your brand?
The size of the brand, I wouldn't class us quite as a global brand yet. I'd say we're an international brand. We sell worldwide, but for the brand itself, I'd like to say it's quite well known in the UK, across Europe, and US is probably our biggest target at the moment, and that's probably the fastest growing country we have. On a size thing, without talking numbers, it's a tough.
You talk numbers.
It's a tough one, but you know, we've got a team in the head office now of it's 54 members of staff, so quite a large business now, and sell around the world. So
yeah, nice. All right, before we go like more into Couture Club and how you built it, I wanted to what I like to do on this show is like take the guests back to before their most successful companies, just to get like an understanding of their mindset before they started. So like going back, what was school like for you?
School, I love school. I loved every second of it, but I just was not very good at any of the things. I really struggled with attention span. I really struggled with, you know, I never actually, you know, can officially say I'm dyslexic. Like I probably have a form of dyslexia because I have pretty much every sign of it, but I've never been diagnosed with it, so I can't say I am. But I just loved the social side of it, and I loved, you know, everything about it and getting on with my friends and things like that. But actual school work, I really struggled with, and I found it really hard. Like, for example, you know, you'd talk about something being in a class, and I physically couldn't remember what was said, and other people would remember it all totally fine, and I'd be like, I just can't get my head around why nothing goes in.
Yeah. Quick question on that. Did that make you feel a little less like worthy, not being good at school?
I think because at the time I was racing go-karts when I was very young at school, from the age of 8, and I was racing them, you know, internationally and in the British Championship and things like that. Because I was winning at things like that.
Okay.
Being honest, I didn't care.
Okay. Yeah.
If I wasn't doing that, I would definitely have felt not worthy. I would have I felt I didn't probably have much to give. But I kind of just looked at it as in at the time, like none of my mates really care if I'm, you know, super clever or not so clever, but they just like me for
just because that's quite a common thing that comes up about being at school and entrepreneurship. A lot of people say that beforehand when they were at school they weren't good at school, so it made them feel less valued, because when you're like a teenager and you go to school, that's like everything. School's everything. You get judged every day at school. So they feel a little bit less valued. But you're right, because I was similar, because I played football. It was a little less.
To say, did you play sports? Because
I played, yeah.
I still played sports at school, and it became a point when I was racing a lot more when I wasn't allowed to, because I was letting them down too much because I was away every weekend. And sports, naturally, if you were good at sports, it didn't really matter about your school. Like you were popular, you were kind of cool or whatever. It was when you were at school. It's like, so I was quite fortunate in that position that I loved all sports as well. But
being a race driver in school is pretty sick as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but even back then, no one really, like, it's the odd person to take the piss, and it was more the teachers than anything like that. Like, say, for example, I'm racing the British Championships, it's a big deal. And they'd be like, oh, how was your pedal karting? And I was like, mate, like, don't even start. Like, and it's just some teaching. I think to myself now, like, you have no idea. Like,
yeah.
Why would you even say that to a young kid that's racing the British Championship? It's like, it doesn't matter what it is, it's support them in some way, but they just didn't understand.
Hey, when I look back, some teachers are quite toxic, innit? You didn't understand the levels because at the age you was at. When you think back, they're actually quite toxic.
Oh, without a doubt, I look back at a lot of mine, and yeah, that's why. Yeah, I think the exact same.
So, any entrepreneurial moments at school?
Oh, it's kind of, obviously everyone tends to have the same kind of thing, don't they? Where, you know, they bought sweets and sold them at school. Mine was probably a little bit different, right? So I was on a school bus, and there's a lot of older kids on my bus that I used to know and things like that. And we used to have the ice cream van, but there was a massive queue.
Yeah.
Anyway, no one young or my age could get in the queue, and they just get pushed out by the older kids. Anyway, because I knew them all because they were on the bus. They used to like literally pick me up and throw me inside the, like, we used to call it the frost van or whatever. So I'd always be able to get stuff. They'd just hold me up there. I wouldn't even have to queue, and I'd just like order what I wanted, and then they'd put me back down. So because they'd do that to me and I'd get their stuff, I'd also just ask everyone else, they're going to put me in there again, like, what do you want? And then just sell it to them. So I was just basically a reseller of what was in the frost van that no one our age could actually even. You couldn't buy anything because the older kids just kind of just stopped it.
Yeah. So what was your financial background like in terms of like at home?
I'd say I was from a very privileged family, but nothing was ever passed down. Like my dad's done well for himself, and I was around racing. So as I said before, it's a very expensive sport and things like that. But if I wanted, a fiver to pocket money, it wouldn't happen. Like people, like I did racing, and I had all that side of my life, so I was very, very privileged in that way. But in normal life, like not at all. Like so, I never really, my friends kind of probably had a lot more than me in normal life, but I lived an amazing life with what I was doing with racing. My dad, he's got an engineering company, but he raced and rallied his whole life. My uncle has rallied cars. So like our whole family is based around racing. So it was kind of, that was always a passion in our family. So, and again, my dad's not interested in clothes, not interested in watches, not interested in, any material things other than cars. So he just collects cars and that's it. So that side of things I was very privileged on. But then, the normal side of just normal, just got by, kind of never really needed much when I was younger.
Yeah. So you say growing up, do you have a fairly good relationship with money, like a healthy relationship with money?
Never really had any.
Yeah. But in terms of like when you was a kid, you never always wanted money but couldn't have it, or?
No, I did. I did always want money and never had it.
Okay.
And I always, I always wanted things and couldn't get it because I couldn't afford to get it.
Yeah.
So I kind of, like, I started to understand quite early, like, if I did jobs for, for my dad, or worked in his factory for him at the weekend, cleaning up for, some of the lads, he'd give me a tiny bit of money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I probably was like everyone. I was in a world with racing where everyone had a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I was in effect, the least wealthy one out of every single person I'd ever met.
Yeah.
So I kind of probably did feel in that world like
I
didn't have a lot.
Yeah. So when did you start getting a bit of a drive for it, where you started wanting to go into business?
As soon as I finished racing, because in my eyes, the only reason I didn't continue to race at that point was because we couldn't afford to race.
Money, right?
Was money. So for me, the talent side of things wasn't the reason why I never continued. Don't get me wrong, I probably wouldn't have made it to Formula One, but I would know for a fact I'd have a career as a racing driver. All my friends still race, and that's their job now.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt at that age, at 21, that my career kind of was taken away because of money. So I then didn't want that to ever happen in my life again.
I like that. Yeah.
And that was probably the real trigger point where I thought, like, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to make sure that money's not a problem for me in my life going forward. And that really gave me the drive, I suppose, at that age to push forward.
And that's interesting. That's interesting. That's not really something that you normally hear when I ask that question. It's not like my drive for kind of money in business was because it stopped a career for me that I love. That's a huge drive.
And I think for me, it was like, it sounds crazy, but because at that age I was 21 and I definitely not even thought about having kids or anything like that at that time. But I just had in my head, I don't want my child to go through school from, the age of 8 all the way through thinking, I'm going to be in Formula One, I'm going to be in Formula One, I don't need to concentrate on this, I don't need to do this, I'm going to be in Formula One the whole way through, to then get to an age when it really matters and it get taken away kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, I never want that to happen to my son again. And like, I understand what finances it would need for him to do what I did now.
Yeah.
And what I'd need to get to.
Well, what are we talking there?
Realistically, I don't think you could put a kid in a go-kart 8 years old and expect him to get to Formula One without spending over 10 million on him.
Really?
Yeah, there's no chance. In that world, it's very different.
But that, I guess, obviously that doesn't have to come from
that person.
It's about you can raise it, right?
You can raise it. It's just realistically until what level.
And obviously you have to fund it to a certain level, right? Until you can.
It's only these last few years when people become a little bit more interested in Formula One that they've started to understand Formula 2 and Formula 3.
Yeah.
But even to race in Formula 3, you're going to be spending a couple of million in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when no one was watching that, who would want to pay you money to advertise their company on it? That was always the struggle in racing. It had to be someone that was a diehard fan, or someone that was super interested in racing or had a business that was related to it, maybe didn't have their own kids, or they just had a real passion for racing. It's easier in your saloon cars and your GT racing, because you usually have if it's you have two of you driving the same car, and you switch over, and usually one of them's the wealthy backer and the other one's the talent that kind of makes sure that he wins the race.
Yeah, no, that's
but
interesting.
Single seat is a different ball game. It's it's challenging.
Okay. Yeah. So all right, so coming out of race driving, what was like the next step for you?
So I actually moved to Marbella as soon as I finished racing, because at the time.
But at the time, was it a bit like, oh shit, what the fuck am I going to do now?
Well, no, I still was trying to raise money for the year after.
Okay.
So I went to Marbella trying to find sponsors, because I knew it was like the right place and there was a lot of money in nightlife. And I was thinking, could there possibly be, someone there that could sponsor my racing? So I was there for a summer, mainly focusing on raising money for racing. It kind of possibly raised about 40 grand or something like that through various like clubs and different things that would be interested. Just more of probably not the legit way of them.
Yeah.
It was probably just a different scenario of them having a bit of glory by sponsoring a race team or something like that kind of thing, rather than they weren't getting any real benefit out of it from a club perspective. And I got speaking to a lot of the guys there, and they said like, well, mate, why don't you just work here? Like, we can pay you like good money, like perfect for it. So I kind of just...
You got there by yourself?
Yeah. Well, 2 of my friends were planning on doing a season there. We went on holiday as a group at the start of summer, and then I went out there and kind of focused on that. And then because my friends were staying for the season, I thought, well, I'll just stay here then. So I kind of just stayed and kind of got immersed in the nightlife scene probably for the next 5 years of my life, which I don't regret at all. I met so many people over the years. Probably a lot of them people have helped me throughout, you know, my career with the clothing brand and stuff like that. So especially when I launched the brand, like when you're in nightlife, a lot of people will do favors for you because you know, when you getting someone in a club and you're sorting the tables out and things like that, they're a lot more inclined to help you than probably a lot of other things. So yeah, especially when we launched the brand, I had huge support from everyone, you know, in the Marbella nightlife scene and then from the Manchester nightlife scene as well. So that really, you know, helped the brand. But that kind of, the whole nightlife thing led me on to reality TV, which is something that, again, helped the brand massively as well. Because I was going out.
So that's where it stemmed from, just going out, building up contacts, meeting people.
And then MTV got in touch with me and said, like, oh, we've got this show, like, we really want you to do it.
Was that really random? Or was you around people in reality TV?
No, I wasn't around it. The only time I was, you know, like when people come into the clubs and things like that, and I was sorting them out, so I had the number on my phone, like that kind of thing. But so if anyone came to Marbella that was on TV, like, they'd probably come through me for the booking or things like that. So, or for me or one of my friends anyway. And so that was it really. I wasn't really around anyone on TV. And at that point, I was kind of a bit like, oh, is this what I want to do? Probably not. So I kind of like put it off for a bit. And then in the same period, like a few people that I knew kind of must have had this similar phone call and they were like, are you going to do it? And I was like,
was it a good deal? Did it pay well?
No, it wasn't that. I think you get like $5,000 for it, for the first, because it was a new series. It was in effect.
But at 21, 22 though, that's decent money, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. It was like $5,000. At that point, they don't tell you what the show is or anything about it, kind of thing. But I also think at that point, because I did the first ever series of X on the Beach, they didn't know what it was. It was meant to be called Summer of Love. And then
you was on the first?
The first ever one, the first ever one. So we've all gone there like thinking, oh, go on, we'll do it. It's a bit of banter. It was in Marbella anyway, so I was like, perfect. Just move out of my flat, move into a nice house for a couple of weeks. I'll give it a go. So I went ahead and did it, and that kind of propelled me a little bit. And being honest with you, the following I got from that wasn't huge or anything, but that having people, it's like messaging me about the clothes that I was wearing, really gave me confidence to think, oh, you know what, like.
Oh, was you getting brands reach out to you saying, where my clothes?
Yeah, brands were. And then also the people that watch the show were like, oh, I love your clothes. Where's this from? Where's that from? And like, fashion had always been something that I loved. As like it was my number 2 to racing. Really, it was like everything. I just loved clothes all the way through. For even when I was at school, like, I used to wear mad gear, like Vivian Westwood stuff when I was like 13, mate. Like, we're
gonna get some pictures up. We're gonna get some pics for the B-roll.
No, you can't get any of them up there. I think there's some floating about somewhere, but hopefully no one will find them. But yeah, that gave me the confidence to think, you know what? I've always wanted to start this, and there's people sending me stuff, and the clothes that they were sending me, I kind of was wearing them, and they're like, oh mate, sold out that t-shirt last night, and I was thinking it wasn't even good quality, or it wasn't like, the fit wasn't perfect, or it wasn't amazing at the time, but back then there was probably so little brands out there doing it that they were doing really well. And I just thought, you know what, now's my time to, you know, really.
How long ago are we talking is this as well?
So I filmed the show in, I think it was a September or an October, but it didn't air for 6 months. So it's probably a year after. I think I'm probably about, I was 23 when I did the show, I think.
Okay.
So it was a year. So there was a year in between when I first went to Marbella. Oh, I did a few years in Marbella. It's a bit of a blur, mate. If I'm honest with you, can imagine. Well, 6 days a week, yeah. Yeah, so I went to Marbella as soon as I finished racing. So I was 22 that summer, and I think I did like, before I'd done the TV, I think I'd done like 3 summers there or 4 summers. So I've been there a while. Do you know what I mean? I'd done the nightlife thing for quite a while, and then that's when it came. So I'm sure I must have been.
Remember what year it was?
Nah, I don't even remember.
All right, cool. All right, so these brands will reach out to you.
Yeah, so this is, because I did TV twice, so that's why I always get confused, because I was like, which one was
I got you.
So I did that series, and in that time, I was trying to start the brand, or at least develop the brand anyway. After I got the confidence and people were asking me where things were going. So started working at it, and it took me probably about another year to even get started. Like I was just getting the worst samples ever made, and I didn't have a clue where I was going. And then Scott, who's now my business partner, he had a business called Selfie Stick at the time. I don't know if you remember the Selfie Stick.
Selfie Sticks, yeah.
And they had the company, the main company really. Theirs was in like Selfridges, Harrods, or like everything down to like Costco. Like they had the UK covered on Selfie Sticks. They were like the #1 brand. So they had suppliers of some sort. So they kind of helped me out and said like, oh, we'll help you with the business and things like that. I'll have a percentage and this kind of thing. So
how did you get connected?
Well, we used to do the nightlife stuff together.
Okay.
So myself and Scott Thomas as well. Them two guys and Michael, one of our other friends who now lives in New York, they had the Night of Easter in Manchester, which was probably the #1. You call it a student night, but it wasn't really a student night. A lot of young footballers would be there. It was like just the night, really. It was on a Thursday night at Sakura. And I used to, because I was doing all the events in Marbella, when I came back to Manchester, they were like, I want you to be part of our team rather than doing a night of games. So I was like, yeah, they're the best lads. They looked after me, and I wasn't just a normal guy doing, guest lists and things like that for them. So I worked with them, and we became really close. Like, you're working together every single day, trying to hype up events every single week. So doing that. And then we worked together when we started the brand. And while they were doing Selfie Stick, they had all the contacts, they were working in China, they were, getting things from all over the place. So I didn't have that side of the business at all. Like I was just purely creative and brand and just wanted to make cool clothes.
Yeah.
Like, that was my aim. I just want to make cool clothes and people buy them and people wear them and think they were cool as well. It was kind of, I was making stuff that I wanted to wear that I couldn't buy. And there was people out there that wanted it as well. So it worked. Yeah.
So you kind of, that creative side, you didn't really have much knowledge in business. So that was kind of Scott's side of things.
Didn't have any. Like I had never had a business before. I'd never done any business. I mean, like I said, at school, I struggled. I worked for my dad's engineering company for a bit when I was racing and things like that. And it was like, I was never doing any of the business side. I was building machinery,
Yeah. As you all know, it's been a turbulent time for travel, with the booking process in particular causing feelings of frustration and anxiety amongst travelers, whether that's for business or for those holidaying with their families. With that being said, I would like to introduce you to our sponsor, Love to Travel, who are a luxury travel company specializing in tailor-made holidays for each individual client. Whatever your preference might be, Love to Travel will be sure to meet your requirements. As an ambassador of Love to Travel, but also from personal experience, I would definitely recommend them to take away all the work and stresses of booking your travel. For me, the personal service stands out. They're contactable at any time, email, over the phone, WhatsApp. They also cover a variety of holiday types: beach, ski trips, safari, sporting holidays, and also have an additional service such as private jet and yacht charters, as well as restaurant reservations. No request is too complex. All holidays are fully tow insured to ensure you can book with complete confidence. Get in contact by visiting their website, www.lovetotravel.co.uk.
What was like, why did you start the business? What was like the desired outcome for you?
Desired outcome was, to be fair, it was just to have like an amazing clothing brand that people love to wear the clothes. That was all I wanted. All I wanted was to make clothes that people weren't selling at the time, and everyone else to love them as much as I did, because I really cared about them, really liked them, and we kind of, way past what we ever expected we'd get to with it. So
yeah. So there was no huge plan. Couture, we wanted to be here. It was just like,
no, because I had no business background. I had no idea of a business plan, nothing like that. Fortunately, I had a tiny bit of money. My mum lent me some money when I started the brand, so we started with $5,000, and it was kind of
okay. Oh, you funded it yourself?
Yeah, fully funded ourselves, and it was kind of we'll get some t-shirts made and we'll start selling them and hustling with it. And when we make enough money,
did you keep it rolling, or did you ever go back to zero and you had to go out looking elsewhere?
No,
again?
just always kept it rolling. But we couldn't afford to do anything until we'd sold it. So it was like sell them t-shirts, then we can afford to buy the next.
Who was you selling them to?
It was just all online. So we actually started a business and everything, like set up the website ourselves. Well, one of our friends kind of like just helped us as a mate and set a website up for us. And back then I was using Twitter loads, so we were just banging everything on Twitter. And then because I'd just done TV, like I was just getting everyone from like Always Essex, everything like that, just to share it for me. Everyone from MTV shows sharing it for me. So it kind of, had a lot of help from, people just share.
And that was really effective. Did it help it grow a lot?
Massively, because back then no one was getting paid for influencer marketing. There wasn't a word as an influencer.
Right.
There was just people from reality TV and then sports people. There wasn't an influencer. That wasn't the kind of a thing. So like no one got paid. So for them, if they got a free t-shirt, they were like, oh mate, buzzing. Like, yeah, what do you want me to do? I'll put a picture in it. And I'll do it.
And these guys had big followings at the time.
Yeah, massive followings in like, but no one really kind of
was
monetized it at that point.
Yeah, were the clothes good?
Probably the first ever batch wasn't amazing, but then I've got friends, and I'm not even lying now. We're coming up to 7 years next month. I've got friends that've still got our first ever t-shirt, and it's still in decent nick. So
yeah, good.
You know, I'll take that.
Yeah, and what did it look like, kind of getting it off the ground? What was your life like? Was it hectic every day, just like smashing it?
I wouldn't say it was actually hectic. It was just every day I had to be better than the day before. I just went there, and the guys had their own warehouse for self-stick, and I had a desk in the corner with my laptop, my printer, stock just sat in front of me, which wasn't very much. And it was kind of just keep tweeting, talking about it, keep taking pictures in it, doing photo shoots with my mates behind the camera and things like that, pulling my mates in for photo shoots. Like very, you know, just like a real brand behind the scenes. Like what do you do when you're starting out? Right, I've got some product there, I need to sell it. Let's take some pictures. Rope your mates in, and like they'll put pictures of them wearing it up, and then people start wearing it and people start seeing it.
Did it start turning into a money thing now? You wanted to start making money?
Yeah, but it made money right from the start. But we weren't paying ourselves anything at all. I was kind of just like hoping that I was kind of going to start ticking over. But I was still doing the nightlife stuff on the side, but that didn't really take much time. It was kind of just a bit of Facebook and like be at the events all the time and getting people down. So
did your life kind of change in that respect in terms of like partying? Was it more business and less going out?
Not at that point. It took a bit longer.
So it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit though, isn't it? So you probably had to...
it worked me going out still and things like that. So it took probably a year and a half until I even took a penny out of it. Like I just kept it going and relied on, you know, a very little money from my night off. I slowly pulled that down and down because I wanted it to go bigger. And then I went back on TV again. And I suppose that's when I really, you know, when I came back from that, I was really focused on making money then. Before that point, the first time around, I was doing all club appearances, everything like that, and probably spent most of the money from that on having a good time while I was doing it all. Yeah. And then the tiny little bit I'd left, I put all into Couture Club. I had nothing else left to even live on, really. It was kind of just all in there. But the second time round, I knew, right, now I've got a second chance.
Yeah.
So I really, you know, we were super focused on the business. My following had grown. We were super focused on getting the right people wearing it, monetizing everything. And then eventually, obviously, I needed to be able to take, you know, salary from it and working it full time. So I was fully full time then. So second time around, I was doing club appearance at night. And then one of my mates would drive me back. Say I'd finish at 2 a.m, drive me back all the way from wherever I was in the country, get back, probably have a couple of hours sleep, and then go straight in the office. And I did that for like a year straight, but that was probably the best time. I love that the most because, you know, club appearance is not really a lot of work, really. You just go, kind of have a few drinks, take pictures, and kind of get off. So it wasn't hard, it was just tiring. That was the only thing it was. There was a lot of travel and things like that. But again, like you said, it goes hand in hand. I was wearing the clothes, every appearance kind of thing, talking to people about it. People were seeing my brand. I was getting more and more well known. It kind of helped the whole thing. Yeah,
you mentioned you had a few friends involved at the time. What was their involvement?
So Scott, my business partner now.
Oh, you only had, so it was just him? Because you doing photo shoots behind the scenes and all that?
Yeah, no, so I was just asking mates. So for example, like one of my friends, Drew, who's got tattoo restaurant, they've got quite a few of them all over the country now, but obviously one just up the road in Manchester. Like we used to live together at the time, and it's like, oh,
he owns that?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And it was like, oh mate, can we take some pictures in the clothes? And he's, you know, he's a super cool kid. So I was like, right, I'll get someone with a camera and we'll go and take some pictures and do like a long shoot. And then one of our mates, Jamie, who's in like Nottingham, I can remember there's a picture of like all three of us laughing. It's like it's the first t-shirts we've done. It was just like me and my two mates just getting someone to take pictures of us in the clothes. And that was it. Like, and it was like the first ever shoot we did, but it wasn't, you can't even call it a shoot, you know, it was just like, just taking pictures, are you, and trying to promote it.
Yeah. So at what point would you say you got to the mindset was like, well, like we might have something here?
The second year. So we started in May 2015.
Yeah.
Went live at the end of May 2015. It was like bank holiday weekend. So I'd probably say a year after that, I realised we actually probably had something that was working. I remember actually, well, probably before that, because when we had the Black Friday of our 1st November, we've got our first ever tracksuits. So we launched the tracksuits on Black Friday because it was like, oh, new thing. Like we've never had tracksuit before.
Yeah.
Like we just had t-shirts and some cut-off vests, and that was it. So and we launched them, and like, they sold amazingly on Black Friday. I can remember I just spent the whole weekend, because it was so manual then, literally just packing everything for the whole weekend. Like, and I loved it. It was like, I was thinking, oh my God, like, you don't have any overheads, do you? So you're just like, oh, this is all mine. Oh my God, it's amazing. Like, this is brilliant. So at that point, but it was probably the next year when, you know, I started putting a lot more effort in it. And I think Scott at this point stopped Selfie Stick. He had another business called Air Runner, which he was involved in with the other lads as well. And that kind of stopped around that point as well, I think. So he became like full-time on the business with me. So then when there's two of you sat together, it's like anything, what you do, you just talk about ideas all day, start doing things. That's when it really changed, was when it wasn't just me by myself, you know, and I had someone to bounce off, someone with the business mindset helping me, you know, on any sort of logistical side, or with, you know, supplies and stuff like that. Whereas I was just good at getting it on people and getting people to wear it and post and promoting the brand. That was what I was strong at the start. And I was, again, very lucky with that, the fact that I had, you know, a platform myself. But that's when it really started to grow then. And we were like, right, how can we start, you know, bringing more products in? How can we afford to bring more products in and things like that? And we realized we didn't actually have, because we didn't have massive amounts of money and we were relying on to sell the stock to buy more stock, we could never scale the business up properly.
Okay.
Because none of our factories then, we couldn't afford to do, you know, big minimums with any of the factories abroad. So we were still getting it all made in the UK, and it's probably not the best. So we were paying over the odds at the time. It wasn't, and it just
cost. It's cheap, more expensive in the UK.
Yeah, it's just more expensive, and probably, being honest, at the time, the quality maybe at the factory we were using wasn't as good as what it is internationally.
Right.
And that probably is down to the factories that we were working with, because again, we were very inexperienced in that area. And then we started working with a company called 2 Squared, who were an agency, and they kind of decided to, we kind of did a deal with them where they'd help us with the fulfillment side of things. So they'd do the picking, packing. I'd have use of, you know, their staff, and we could really focus on the marketing. Also, they had a lot of, you know, good suppliers that they've been working with different brands for years, because they, you know, they looked after, they licensed brands for certain companies. They had their own brands. They, you know, they had a lot of experience in it. So we're like, right, these great to partner with. And that's when it really grew, because we could then get payment terms with factories, so we could in effect order the stock, not pay for it for 30 days.
And you had the demand, right?
Yeah, so we had the demand, but we just couldn't afford to do some of the stuff. Or what we were finding was we'd have like 2 weeks where we'd have really good weeks, and then we'd kind of run out of stock and we'd have a bit of a lull, you know, like where it kind of, not all the stock, but a lot of the stock. But because we needed to pay our suppliers fully up front at the time, because we were so inexperienced, like I said, we didn't know anything about business, we were paying for everything up front. So we basically had
Scott had a decent, like the basics.
And that was why we knew we had to get, you know, factories where we could get payment terms and things like that. So that's why we went down that route in the end. But it was kind of getting to find them factories was what we always struggled with. Then when we did that, we placed massive orders, and that's when it really grew, because we then had the stock, we then had everything we needed, and it was kind of on us to really market the brand and push it. At this point, it was just still the two of us. We hadn't even implemented like our own team or anything.
You two just doing everything.
Just doing everything, but apart from, well, not the fulfillment. And like I said, we had access to designers, so I could sit with someone and like talk through what I wanted, exactly what I wanted, and then they could finish the CAD for me, rather than at the very beginning I was like drawing it and then going on LinkedIn and finding a freelance CAD designer to kind of make a tech sheet for me.
Yeah.
And that's where we were at. So it kind of just started to tick on from then.
Yeah, no, interesting. So then So Scott was obviously more the business side, you was more the creative side. At what point would you say you started like developing business skills?
Probably around then, when I started to understand how important knowing your numbers was, and actually understanding the business. It was probably the year after that. We had a financial controller in the business that, you know, we thought was good at the time, and we probably had a year where he was like, "You're making like this amount of money, you're making this amount of money." And we were like, "Oh, great, we're spending loads of marketing, we're growing so fast, like the sales were there."
You're hardly taking any money at this point, are you?
We're still on that. We're on just an all right small wage. You know?
You're living, you're getting by.
We're living, but the brand's growing quick. So we're thinking like, "Oh, we're doing amazing here." Like, at the end of the year, we've killed it.
Yeah.
Financial controller's telling us we are, and turns out the financial controller was miles off it. And we got to the end of the year, and we'd literally barely made anything.
Serious.
And we'd grown the business an awful lot. We were kind of in a position.
Why was you not making any?
Because we were overspending massively on everything, because we were just overspending on marketing and things like that, because we had this financial control that we were trying to trust in the business, and I kind of didn't really have an interest in that. And that was when I was like, I need to know my numbers now.
Yeah.
Before it was, for me, I was just like, I didn't have any part.
Do you know, it's a similar story with me as well, you know, so I understand what you mean there. That kind of point where you're like, shit, I need to take control of it.
I actually just genuinely was like, you can laugh about it because obviously we've got quite far, do you know what I mean? But at that point, I was just literally, all I wanted to do was design clothes and market them and just get everyone wearing them and keep it. So all I did was look at that. I'd look at the sales numbers and look at what I spent on, you know, influencers and things. But overall cost of everything, I wasn't even looking at any of that. I was like, that's what financial control was looking at. I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing and keep doing that well.
And you found out that's not enough, and you need to.
I found out that was definitely not enough, and that was like the biggest, like, probably realization for myself, Scott. Both of us, we were like, "Wow, what have we done here? Like, what's gone on?" And that was when we really started to kind of think we need to understand a lot more about the business. We need to understand every single cost, and I don't think anyone now, like, I even look at it and think, how could I have not thought that I needed to know all that?
From hindsight, it's obviously
but I had
easier.
no experience in it. I was just kind of having a great time, enjoying the ride kind of thing. Just like, yeah, we're flying, like everyone's wearing the brand, it's sick.
Did you have any like fears or reservations starting the brand?
My only fear was obviously like it not working, but it didn't.
It wasn't much of a risk to you. It was like,
no, it's like I'd put, well, yeah, it was a risk.
But you had $5,000 of your like mum's money.
Yeah, it was 2.5 of mum's money and 2.5 of my money, and it was like that was all I had probably at the time. To be honest with you, like, man, I was skint. So it was a big risk in that, and I kind of was like, I need to make this work. But when you think like when everyone's wearing it and the sales are coming in, you think
it feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it felt amazing. But when you actually look at the profit at the end of the year, you're like, no wonder the sales are coming in. We're spending all the money on marketing, so of course they're going to.
So what changes did you make at that point to start?
We got a financial director very quickly, and a very good one.
Whose call was that, Scott's?
Yeah, it was Scott's. Okay. And also our accountants as well.
Yeah. All right, so you're starting to develop a little bit of a team around you.
Yeah, so we had, you know, not an accountant and things like that, but again, for the ins and outs day to day, they're not in there day to day, they're just the accountants. So they helped us, and we got an amazing FD. And then it was like actually having management reports then, and we were looking, and I could actually see and think, oh, hang on, well, we spent that on that, and that's not really brought that in. And you could really, you know, analyze the business and start looking at data, and that's probably when we've grown so much. I probably spent the last 2 years probably less focused on creative and design and marketing, and more on just developing my own skills, really. Because being honest with you, I didn't have them, so I've spent 2 years doing that and understanding it all now. So now I understand it, but now I need to still focus back on what I'm probably strongest on. But it was one of them things that I need to know that nothing like that can ever happen again. You know, I've got to be able to look at my management accounts, trust them, know they're right. If something's not, understand why we're not changing, and, you know, make any changes that we need to with Scott. But we learned the hard way. Yeah.
So question, people like from the outside, they see like Couture, this is sick clothes on it, so everything just looks really good, right? What's like some of the ugly sides of the business that people don't see in terms of running like a fashion brand?
the stress. I don't think a lot of people realise with fashion. I think, well, it's like any probably e-commerce business. It is 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and again, any entrepreneur will understand this because they work every hour, they get. But a lot of people probably don't understand that even on your weekends, like you've still got to be, even your evenings, it's still on, it's still going. Like you've got to be checking it. Like someone's got to be checking it. It's not a normal business that, has working hours.
Mm-hmm.
You're open all hours. So there's that side of things. And I think there's always the challenge with the world and what's going on in the world, especially right now. Like I think the whole industry's seen a massive, impact on traffic right now because, cost of living's going up. There's a lot of things going on in the world and everyone's seeing it. Like you see everyone posting the results and things like that. And they're nowhere near where they should be or where they were. So you have them challenged all the time. I think there's also a massive part in clothing of you have that worry of brands become hot and brands become not.
Mm-hmm.
And how to stay relevant all the time. It's constantly a relevancy game. It's not just good products. It's what are you doing on the sustainability side of things? What are you doing?
Yeah. You must respect brands that's been in the game for stayed relevant for 30, 40, 50 years,
wow,
right?
Yeah. But then what I also think is amazing is like you see these huge brands now and, they might have been off it for a few years, new creative director, and then bang, they're everywhere. New hype. It's like, I respect that just as much because it's like, their CEOs, everyone in their business must have been thinking, wow, we're nowhere near where we were before. Made a few changes and they're absolutely flying. It's like being able to adapt and change is super strong. Like we had lockdown, we had an amazing year. We had loads of tracksuits. So we're looking at all our data and your data is telling you, obviously, tracksuits are selling amazing. We need more tracksuits. You start coming out of lockdown. Obviously, you're coming out of lockdown, but your data is still there. And it's like, what point do we go against the data and go, we're going into real life again? And we need to
start changing up the clothing.
Do we need to go back to having more of our going out apparel rather than being so tracksuit heavy?
Interesting.
We were probably too slow on it. We were thinking like, oh, well, we've always had tracksuits. We've always been a tracksuit brand. But as soon as we came out of lockdown, no one wanted any more tracksuits. And you kind of, you're like, oh, here we are. We've not had summer. We had a few years where summer nearly flirted with us and we thought we were going to be able to go away and people got in the odd holiday. But so we still brought out smaller summer than normal. But, you have them challenges of, there's a lot that's gone on in the world the last few years. It's probably made what seemed to a lot of people a very simple industry, like turn it on its head for a few years. But
yeah, one challenge that I always think about when I think about a clothing brand is like, where do you get the inspiration for your collections? Like it's a bit like an artist or like a rapper, like trying to write bars. Sometimes you must get a blank, like, yo, I've made so many clothes. How do you think of new collections all the time?
It's so funny that you said that because today was one of them days.
Was it?
Yeah. Like, we're always looking, for inspiration elsewhere. A lot of inspiration, is led by some of the designer brands. And for anyone that's in the fashion industry, obviously you've got WGSN, which is kind of like a fashion tool that most brands use. And probably not many people talk about really that they actually use it, but it kind of to tell you 2024 colours and whatever's going on there. So sit on there a lot, but some days you just have days where you're like, it's just not coming. And we've got, an amazing design team now in the business. And it's the same with any creative role. You're going to get them days. You've got to take yourself out sometimes, take yourself out, walk around the shops for a bit, like see clothes, like feel clothes, go around the vintage shops. Like I've always been a fan of vintage clothes. Like I still now buy vintage clothes as well as designer clothes, as well as wear our own clothes. Like I can appreciate a lot of different clothes. So it's just finding that inspiration from somewhere and kind of opening your mind, because once it's open, you can just keep going sometimes then.
Yeah, it just flows, doesn't it?
Just flows, yeah. But then when you're having a day when you're struggling and you just like, sometimes you just think of where I'm sat right now is not doing anything for me.
Yeah, but then you only bring out collections after you've had the ideas and brought it together, right? You don't be like, I'm going to bring out a new collection in 6 months' time and you've got like a deadline to think of something new.
No, we work on monthly drops now. So we drop, products every single month. And in the past, we used to be dropping them kind of as and when, almost weekly at times.
Right.
So we're very different to, like what a lot of, you probably more traditional brands do, where it's, 4 4 times a year and that kind of thing. So we were always kind of, you pre-planning, working, you know, however many months ahead. In the past, we were very close to the time, whereas now we're like, I'm on spring summer 23 right now, so pretty much nearly gone through all of that for next year, or like everything's nearly a year in advance now. So that's challenging because, you know, you've always, you kind of anticipated a little bit as well as thing, but like halfway through that, so there's like data-driven decisions in there from bestsellers, things like that. But then there's also some bits to be finalised, which will be more close to the time and stuff. But yeah, it's finding that balance of getting it right and not, you know, putting too much behind a new style that might be a massive risk.
Do you get nervous putting things out, or people's like reactions to it?
Not so much nervous. I get probably shocked sometimes, you know, like if you think something's an absolute banger and it doesn't get a reaction, or I get more shocked when I don't rate something at all. And it flies. And it flies.
I was going to ask that as well.
But I love that. I love that because I always look, and I kind of, every launch, I'll always have my own favourites, and they tend to be the ones that do the best. And then when something does amazing that I've not actually thought, I then question myself and think, why didn't I like that? What made me not, but everyone else has loved it? And it's not that I didn't like it, because I wouldn't put it out there if I didn't like it, but it was let's say it wasn't one of my like, that's my standout. That's the one that's going to fly. And
everything you put out though, is it something you would wear?
It is now. Again, I think in any business, this is a big challenge. Like going through a stage where data was driving a lot of decisions, and we were looking at, you know, what our best sellers were and some of the stuff. And like anyone, like my own style changes, probably your style's changed in the last few years and things like that. You wear slightly different stuff. So some of the things that we brought out years ago that were best sellers for us, and the data from that's obviously, you know, informing what we're doing moving forward. I probably wasn't wearing a lot of things anymore of them products, and they were still doing well. So there's a time when there was things going through and I necessarily wasn't massively keen on them myself, and I kind of got to a stage like probably in the last year where I pulled back a lot on that and kind of had a refocus and thought, I need to narrow this right back down again and really take the brand to the next level and focus on what I really want to do with it, because I didn't like the idea of there being a lot of clothes out there that I wouldn't necessarily be super proud to wear and buzz off. And I think that affected me a little bit when I was like, I don't like this, even though the data was telling me like people want it. It
didn't feel right.
Didn't feel right in what I wanted for the brand, but then at the same time, it's a challenge I think everyone's got.
Yeah, that is a challenge. How would you say the brand and like the look of the clothing's changed since you started? Is it like a complete different brand?
No, not at all. I think there's a lot of the identity that's still there, and there's a lot of things that are still very similar. But I do think general street style has changed massively over the. I'd just say the last 2 years it's changed a lot. You know, everyone was wearing slim fit stuff a few years ago.
It does change so quick, doesn't it? It's like a baggy type. Yeah.
And it's even getting more and more extreme over the next few years. You're going to see people wearing wider and wider pants. Like it's going to happen. Like there was a point when spray on jeans was the biggest thing, and now you're seeing people. Everyone's going back to skate jeans. Like it's all, you know, it all goes around in cycles through different years. Like back before when you were asking about inspiration and stuff, like we were in Korea and we were just over there looking at clothes and things, because I just love Korea. I think it's some of the coolest clothes.
So did you go out there for that?
Yeah,
for inspiration.
Just for inspiration. Just like in China, they've got like a Korean market there as well, where it's just like mad street style, and it's just good for inspiration. Like to look at some of the garments they create, it's just insane. Like it's slightly out there, a lot of it as well, but it's just good to see. And I was on a flight back, and I remember being like, I was watching them. I think it was a 2-pack film, and you know when you start looking at the clothes everyone's wearing in that era, and then you're like, wait, we're back round to that again.
Yeah,
like we're at that era now. It's like it's kind of at the time it was, and it's interesting if you look back and you look at what rappers wore years ago in the 90s, and then you look now, you'll find a year that's almost bang on with where we're at now.
Definitely. Sometimes when I get changed, I look in the mirror, I feel like Ice Cube or something.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. So I always look back if I'm really struggling as well. I like try and find where I feel we're at, and I look back at that year. Like, I'll get on Google and look at artists in them years and what
That's
we're
clever.
wearing.
Yeah, clever.
And it's like, I don't know if have you seen the Kanye documentary?
Yeah, love that
mate,
documentary.
He's got this cobalt leather jacket in that's insane, like a beautiful piece. And he's wearing it in there, and I was like, that's this year. That's this year. And it's a really old clip of him, I think, when he's starting out. And I'm sure he's in Balenciaga, and was wearing a cobalt blue one like this year as well. So it's like either he's on that same page or something like that. But it's interesting. It's good.
Yeah. So how do you like decide on pricing? Is that tough to do?
It's with our demographic and what we always kind of set out to be was, you know, as luxury products as we can give, but at affordable price. I think we've always had to stay in line with that. Right now, cotton prices are going through the roof. Obviously, logistics has just gone crazy. Freight's gone crazy. Like, all costs to a business have gone up massively.
Yeah, 100%.
So I see brands putting their price up left, right, and centre. Some brands putting them up drastically. We've kept them the same. You know, I'm probably taking a little bit of a hit on that, which is challenging. But we know the world's hard out there at the moment for people. So it's kind of like, how hard do you want to make it for them? Do you want, you know, put your clothes out of reach to them?
But as well, you've got to remain profitable so you can grow as a business, right?
So it's kind of like finding, you know, better solutions, whether, you know, you're airing less product in and more's coming on the sea, despite sea taking so much longer. And, you know, there's a lot more challenges there. It's kind of making it possible, you know, for both sides of it.
Yeah. And you, on the pricing thing, you feel like you kind of try and stay with the same type of avatar. So you can't go more expensive and kind of go away from the people that you normally sell to?
No, so we try and have a pricing architecture. So we'll have, you know, what is our regular t-shirt at, say, £35, but we'll also have something that's probably got a lot less detail, maybe a lot less, it's not got embroidery, it's maybe got a bit more print, so that's at an entry price point. And then we might have a t-shirt that's, you know, slightly, well, it's probably a heavyweight t-shirt, it's a lot heavier cotton, got more detail on it, and that, you know, is obviously classed as what's our stretch price point.
Yeah.
So that we've kind of covered three bases there, in the fact that, you know, you're getting more for your money there. So it's not like you just go, oh, that t-shirt's cost more money, we're just putting that price up. Right. It's actually, you know, it's got more to it. You can see the value in it. You know, it's got embroidery on it. It's got print on it. It's got things like that. Whereas on, you know, your more basic t-shirt, it might just be one small print.
I think people are really starting to appreciate that at the minute.
Of course,
like it's quality clothing. Even I sometimes because shopping for me is a bit of like a chore. Like, I find it's tough to find the time and to do it. But then I'll go out and just buy something shitty just because I need something to wear now, and then I'll always regret it.
Yeah.
So now I try and go for like.
I think you're seeing that more and more now. Like, people appreciate quality a lot more than they did before, and I think that's a good thing, because obviously the fast fashion world is a very different, like, it's a different monster. Obviously they're all huge businesses, but the sustainability side of things, it's like a hot topic at the moment, isn't it? And, you know, them guys probably account to a lot of the damage out
there. Also, one other thing I wanted to touch on, which I find like really interesting talking about, is building a culture within your work environment, and how like heavy are you on that in terms of who works for you, daily habits of the people around you? You
know what? It's like, I've always said this as well. We're very fortunate working in a fashion brand. Like, most people that work in a fashion brand went to uni to study fashion. So I believe in my head that that's what they wanted to do. Right. So they're in their dream environment, or they're in a dream job. Like, might not be the dream company, you know, like there's huge designer brands out there that might want to work for, but they're there because they love fashion. So it's like, let's make work fun. Like, let's get the job done, but let's make it fun. So one thing that, like, I love having fun anyway. So it's like, we take our job seriously. We work really hard, but at the same time, it's got to be a super enjoyable environment. Like, we try and do a lot of different staff events, different things like that, like summer parties. At the moment, we're trying to do a lot less of like the alcohol side of parties. We're doing a lot more wellness kind of things. And that sounds crazy, but
yeah, no, that's where it's going at the minute, isn't it?
We had a day. Well, it might be my age and me getting a little bit older, but it's like celebrations and everything used to be around let's go out and get drunk. We'll do a massive party and we'll go out and do that. Whereas now it's like the team, like we did a wellness day last week or the week before, and it's like you had the option, you know, of like massage, physio like that. We have juices, we have a nice breakfast on for everyone. Still do the work, and it's like in like 20-minute slots, and they can pick what treatment they have. And it's like, that's nicer. Like, that's better. Like, they go 100%. Away from work and they go home that night and they're like, oh, I feel amazing. Rather than waking up the next morning feeling like rubbish.
I like that, yeah.
That's what staff do. So we're trying to do a lot more things like that, but also encourage that. I think as a team, a lot of the guys are trying to do, what is it, 3 peaks? Is it 24-hour?
Not sure.
Oh, there's a big walk. It's like 24-hour walk or 12-hour walk, man. It's serious thing. And
are you trying to get them all to do it?
Well, no, I'm not trying to get them all. It was their idea. Like, a lot of them want to do it and try and raise money for Manchester Mines. So, like, the warehouse lads have been in the warehouse, mate, with like weight jackets on while they're doing all the picking and packing. Like, they're training for it. Like, they absolutely love it. Like, they're really pushing it. But it's that kind of thing and encouraging them. Of course, if they want to do it, I'll jump on it with them and like, we'll all do it and kind of push it together. But it's giving them that kind of freedom where they feel like they can go, you know what, we want to do this as a company. Like, is that all right? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And everyone getting on with, rather than, you know, it being a dictatorship or anything along them lines.
Yeah. Okay. So your big thing there is like making everyone feel like really welcome, feel like they have a bit of a voice, being 100%. Free to do what they naturally do.
Well, I wouldn't have hired anyone and put them in a position if I didn't feel like they were good enough to do their job. So, like, yeah, I respect them as much as I can, but I want them to enjoy working for the company as well. So there is pressure, like I said, and it's not, you know, you don't just come in and it's a free for all and anyone does what they want, but it's there to be enjoyable as well.
So going into social media, I know that played a really big part of the growth of Couture. What would you say is the most successful platform for you, the most effective?
It's a tough one right now. The last 2 years, it's all changed massively. So Instagram's always been our number one platform, as in, like, we've got the most amount of followers on there versus any other platform. It's always been the most probably engaged, and also it meant it's probably the easiest for everyone to use. But now you've got, you know, new era TikTok, whole new learning curve.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, a huge part of our business now is constantly, it's just the team learning and working on it all the time. So we're banging out 3 TikToks a day, every single day, getting, you know, working with the algorithms and understanding the platform. It's still kind of a bit, it's like anything, it's new. So it's like testing new platforms and how it works for your business and how you can make it work. But it still is for us Instagram at the moment, but that will be what takes over. Like, for a lot of brands, it already has taken over from what Instagram is. So that's the main one. And it's the one that everyone's talking about in the industry. Like we touched on before, you know, you've got this live selling now that's going on.
You done any of them before?
We haven't yet. We've had a few meetings. I've watched a lot of them, like at studios, and I've witnessed it all, and it's super interesting. It's just wanted to see how it played out a little bit longer before we got involved in it, because I felt like for our brand, it almost might be a bit more of better for a fast fashion brand, even though some of the huge brands are doing it.
Yeah, I know you mean.
Just didn't feel quite right, almost feeling like I was putting my brand on QVC, even though it's not that.
Yeah,
I
know what you mean.
You know, but it just didn't feel right. So right now, I've just spending time watching them, seeing how people do it, seeing how it can be done in the right way before we really settle down and nail doing that kind of thing. But some guys are doing a great job on it.
Back in the day, you'd like give your clothes to influencers, and they were just happy to post. It's obviously changed now. Some are offering some big fees, right? How effective is it?
It's a different world now to what it was. Like I said at the start, it was super effective, and obviously your ROI on it was massive, because you're giving a price for t-shirt.
Yeah.
But now, again, I think every year it changes, and I can't give you a solid answer on it. I personally, right now, I'm undecided on how well it works right now.
So is it something you still do? We still reach out to influencers?
We still have. We've got our influencer budget. We've got a digital budget.
But it's just
and
hard
it
to
still
track.
works. And we can track it because we track it through, the links and how much traffic they drive to the site and things like that. We've come away from any discount codes or anything like that, which is how we used to track it. And that really probably did work, but naturally it would work because you're giving a discount away. We kind of wanted to pull away from that model and really focus on obviously the quality of the clothing and growing the brand for the right reasons, rather than having an amazing day when, you put a sale on or when people post a code. It's like, again, you can almost get caught on doing it and devalue the brand. And I felt like at one point it was getting that way. So we pulled away from it and kind of working a lot more of a full price model now. But the influencers, they work, but it's just nothing like what it was before.
Is it tough finding the right one as well? They've got to kind of be aligned to the brand, and you've got to...
I always like it to be aligned anyway. Like, when in the past, when we've used anyone from reality or something like that, most of the people that have been on them shows, when they've gone on the show, I've naturally looked on their Instagram, things like that, and then I've seen certain ones wearing the brand. So I think, well, he was buying our brand anyway. He was a fan of the brand. So when he comes out, we'll speak to him. Versus like if someone's not interested in the brand at all, I'm not going to do some sort of organic, unorganic influencer thing where not one of them people wears the brand normally and doesn't even like the brand.
Yeah, it's more authentic like that, isn't it?
It just for me, that there's no point in that. If someone doesn't like the brand, doesn't like the clothes, the money shouldn't really matter to them like that. They should have that, be able to say no. So I like it always to be organic now and with the right people, but it is challenging. I think that's probably one of the hardest things, because a few years ago, it was like your number one thing. Like we used to, was just obsessed with it. It was like the main focus was like just influencer marketing. But now you've got, again, same thing, but on TikTok. YouTubers are huge now. There's all these people out there, but on different platforms now, whereas at one point it was just everyone looked at Instagram. So you look at most people that are big on Instagram now, the biggest ones are the ones that are big on YouTube, or they're big on TikTok, and the followings have kind of crossed over onto that. I don't think you get the same kind of hype from, any probably TV people as much anymore.
Because did you say you're looking to go to the US?
Yeah,
it was right. How did you kind of break into that new audience? Is that through influencers? Because I've seen who was that guy that I seen you wearing Couture from the States?
So Michael Rainey Jr.
Yeah, that's it, from Power. Yeah, that's the one. Was that deliberate?
Yeah, so we were working with some guys in America, and they had a lot of, we just kind of got speaking. It kind of went on, and we started working together, and they had contacts with a lot of good American people, and they kind of were just like, while we're speaking to them, we'll just show them the brand, see if they like it. If they like it, totally organic, we'll send stuff out to them. They might not wear it, they might wear it. It's not a paid gig or anything like that. It's kind of, if you like the clothes, they'll wear it. So we got the message through. Obviously, he really likes clothes. These are the clothes that he wants. He's actually had a look on the website himself, so it's not like just his PA's looking and kind of picking some clothes from him. He's going to just give it to one of his mates, and then sent it over, and he wore it. And then we had I don't know how to pronounce the other guy from Power's name. It's like, is it Giovanni or Gianni? I think he might be called.
What, his real name?
Yeah, his real name.
In Power.
So you got Tariq, and then the guy that's at uni or school with him in the room, his roommate.
Oh right, yeah, the one he sells with.
Yeah, the one that he sells with.
Yeah.
He's worn it as well, and done quite a lot of videos as well. So it's kind of, when Michael wore it and posted wearing it and things like that, obviously he's seen it and been like, they actually sent me it, and he was like, oh yeah, get them to send me something. And obviously someone like that that's got a huge profile in America, and probably around the world, like we all know who he is. So it's like,
was US a thought before then as well?
Pardon?
Was going into the US, was that a thought before this?
We've always sold in the US, and it's always been around 10% of our business, but we've always wanted it to grow it a lot more. And obviously with the US, it could be way bigger than what the UK is. It's just obviously a lot bigger place and a lot more people. So we were already selling there, so we already had data from there. So for, when you're talking about digital ads, things like that, we had retargeting going on naturally already, but we probably didn't have a lot of new customer acquisition on digital ads set up at all, which is something that we've implemented now. I had influencers that had worked with us in the past or have reached out, for gifting and things like that. So we have had people, in America posting about it, but we'd never really done like a huge strategy behind it until this year of really focusing on growing the brand there. So it was obviously huge help, someone like that wearing it. Again, it's just then getting the American people to see that it's our brand, not just any brand and things like that. Because someone like that, they don't tag your brand or anything, they just wear it, and you've kind of got to let people know.
That shows, yeah.
Yeah.
With Couture, what would you say like the catapult moment was for you? And a catapult moment being like, you're at a certain level and then something that just shoots you up to the next level.
Do you know what it was for us? It was when the opportunity came about to open a shop in a Trafford Centre.
Okay.
And it was probably one of the biggest risks we've ever taken. Probably one of the...
Financially?
Not necessarily financially, more in the fact that no one had done it in what we would call ourselves at the time as, a bedroom brand, or what other people might have called us. We didn't think we were that at that point, but it was just a word that was getting thrown around, for small brands, that these startups that, people with Instagram brands or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So how that came about was we were doing, billboard campaigns, because we were trying to like do every kind of marketing and like do the biggest things, like make the most noise we could out of any other brand.
And did you have good money in the business at this point?
Yeah, so it was growing. So it was like, it was in the period, don't get me wrong, when we had the bad FC.
Okay.
So we thought we had a lot more than we had.
Yeah.
So we were lining up. We had the right budget for it, so it was not a problem. But we were lining up to do another billboard campaign, and we were looking at it and we were thinking, I wonder how much a shop would be, like a fit out for a pop-up, like in a Trafford Centre, something like that. And we were looking at it, and anyway, we got in touch. And it worked out, it wouldn't be much different to basically do a pop-up in the Trafford Centre for 3 months as what a 3-month billboard campaign would cost us. So we're like, what could we do with that? Like, do you think how many people, like if you open a shop there, you get people buying from it as well? So it's not just a billboard driving people to online. Like,
of course, yeah.
And you've got, you've got your own billboard on the high street, like, perfect. So we went with it. And initially it was only meant to be a 3-month pop-up. Like that was all we signed it with Trafford. It was a 3-month pop-up, October till...
Was it tough to get?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say... No, at that point it's probably tougher than it is now.
Right, okay.
Because,
so it's good timing, okay.
Because there was a lot less vacancies in the centre then. But that one was a vacancy. So it's like anything. I think just at that point you had to show... kind of like where your business is at, what you wanted to do, what you wanted to do with a shop. There's a lot of things to get signed off with a shop, like how visually it's going to look. With a shopping centre, they have a lot of kind of how they want it to look as well as how you want it to look. It's got to fit in with the whole thing. Like Trafford Centre's a lot better than what Westfields in London was. Like they made us change our flooring because it had to be certain flooring that they wanted, and changed signs, and you only had one sign in one place, and it was a nightmare. But once we got it, it was amazing. Like I sat down with our marketing team and I was like, I promise you, I was like, we're going to have everyone in this shop. We're going to do a launch party. We're going to, get a United footballer to open it. We're going to do all this. And I think they kind of...
you did that in, I think, Lingard.
Yeah, so Lingard and Ant Crawler opened it as well. So it was like, super, like, do you know what I mean? Both like helped us out massively by doing that. They were just like, just a big favour. But they didn't really believe me when I was saying all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I know everyone from the New Love Island will come, everyone like all this. Anyway, they came on the night and the store was rammed. Like you got everyone there, like a few more United lads. There was everyone from the newest Love Island that just finished at that point. Made in Chelsea, like all the reality TV
and
shows.
You just knew you knew
just knew them all. At
Okay.
the time, I was out a lot still. Even though I was focusing on the business, my weekends I was in London a lot. And I was going out a lot, so kind of had a good kind of contact book for any events like that. And when we opened it, like that, the girls from Trafford Centre marketing were like, "Wow, that's like drove the most amount of traffic."
But you envisioned that, right? You knew it was going to be like
that. Yeah, I kind of did, because it was such a big deal for us, like at that point of the business. And I think that's one thing that where we're at now, you can never forget moments like that, because things in business, like big moments at times, sometimes don't feel as big when they happen years later, but they should do.
Yeah.
It's still a huge moment, but like that moment there was like, I remember standing there and looking at it and thinking, anyone's in here. Like this is exactly how I wanted it to go. This is perfect. And then, the store worked got to the end of the 3 months and it's making really good profit, and we're like, can't let go of this now. Like this is amazing. Sick. But not again to this day. Like I'm sure there's going to be brands that will do it, but
you still got it.
Still got the store in Trafford Centre. Yeah. Since then we've opened a few more pop-ups, and we actually kept them as pop-ups. Like the original plan was to. We did always want a flagship, but we just didn't realistically think we could have one when we started the business. So we wanted to have pop-ups in like each different city, drive loads of awareness.
Is that what it's about? Just driving awareness?
That was what it was, because it was instead of a billboard campaign. So it was like, we'll do a pop-up, loads of brand awareness, and then we'll shut it and we'll drive everyone back online.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, and we wanted to keep doing it, like loads of different ones of them. And then with the Manchester one, because it was so close to us as well, I was living in Worswick at this point, so I was 5 minutes away. So I was there every night of the week, like every single night. As soon as I finished in the office, I'd just go straight there. I didn't have anything else to do, so I just worked there. So I learned the shop. I loved it, and it was sick. So that was the big moment, and I think that separated us from a lot of the competition at that time.
Right.
Really separated us, because we were no longer, just another one of them Instagram brands. We're like, no, we've got store in Trafford Centre, sell internationally.
Oh, so you felt like that kind of separated you guys from them kind of brands?
Yeah.
And it didn't even take that much.
No, because we did it as a pop-up. It still kind of is a semi-pop-up. We've never done a store fit like, some of these brands do, where they spend £250,000 on store fit. It's like 50 grand store fit. Yeah.
So what's your kind of growth plan from now? Where do you want it to be? Going even further from this?
It's just like
more global.
More global. I think obviously there's a lot more to go out in the UK as well. I think there's a huge amount still to go. Again, it's a tough time right now in the world anyway. So it is just global growth. I think we're doing a lot more sales in Australia now, so I think that will be another country that we'll probably focus a lot more on. Europe's growing. It's hard when new territories are growing. So I want to, rather than focus on every single one of them and not do a good job on it, like all of them, I want to strategize. So I think US is the number one target for this year, followed by Australia and the rest of Europe after that.
And you feel like
once I've got my blueprint for each one,
I was going to say that. Yeah. Do you feel like what you've done here, you just run it again into different countries?
There's a few different things, and how things have changed over the years since when we started the brand here, and how the social media world's adapted slightly. There's a few changes, but I think once I've got the blueprint right, we'll then start rolling it out.
Yeah. And what would you say you've learned the most about money and business throughout the whole process?
Cash is king.
Cash is king. How do you mean?
Just there's nothing worse. Like I said to you before, when we've done a year, and you think you've done amazing, and you've got no profit there.
Right.
You're going into the year after, and you bootstrapped. You're like, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to do this. Can't do that marketing. We had to have a year of really cutting back on everything to get the business back up, so it had the money in the bank. To be able to start doing all the your bigger stuff. And I think it's super important is always looking at that and analysing that, and what you're using it for, kind of things.
Yeah. What would you say you learned about people?
People.
Running a business, you're managing a lot of people, aren't you?
It's the hardest thing in business.
Yeah.
I'd say make sure they're always happy and keep them motivated, because I think no one's going to be motivated when they're not happy. If they're happy, they've got that side of it, and they're probably a lot more motivated to do it. I don't think anyone in business now, or anyone in the world, kind of reacts well to just being shouted at, if they've done something wrong. I think it's kind of a discussion. What we're going to do to change it. What happened? Why did it go wrong? What can we do to never make it happen again, kind of thing. So I think managing people in the correct way and speaking to people in the correct way is probably one of the things I've learned the most. Probably at the start, when I was younger, I was kind of just did what I wanted, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand necessarily people. And if I didn't like, say, a product that one of the girls had designed, I'd be like, nah, I don't like it. Rather than giving any sort of constructive criticism, or anything along them lines. Whereas now we look at everything together. We're constructive about it, give criticism on it, but then also, give compliments on it as well. I think looking after the team is the most important thing, because without a team, you don't have the business. But, and again, the team are what makes the product, creates the hype, shows the customer, you know, what everything is. So
yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because you got to like, you can't expect your workers to love the business as much as you will, but you want them to work as hard as you would work.
That's the hardest thing. It's like that whole thing of when you will just stay up all night to get something done because it means that much to you, and then you think, oh, why is no one else doing that? But
why am I the only one up?
Yeah, and then you hear of that. You hear of, you know, some other brands and they've got staff in at 8 o'clock at night. And I think, how are they getting away with it? Like, how are they doing that to their staff?
Yeah.
But that is always the toughest thing. You know, again, no one's ever going to care about this business as much as I do. So, you know, you've got to manage expectations on that. And I think you've also got to give the staff a bit of freedom as well with their own time. Because I think if I'm there firing messages over on a Sunday evening when they sat with a family, it's like, it's just not, they're not going to come in on Monday, great, are they? So I try now to think about when I'm sending things.
Right.
Whereas before, I would message anyone at any time. Oh, we need to do this.
Yeah.
Can we do this? Can we do this now? Oh, let's jump on.
I do that, you know. I just feel like I don't expect, if I wanted to message someone at 10 o'clock, I don't expect you to reply. But it's there. You can choose if you want to.
For me, I do that a lot because I forget if I don't.
Right.
You know.
Yeah,
so like I actually write that sometimes. I'm just sending you this now before I forget. But we'll jump on it tomorrow. You know, like that kind of thing. But yeah.
But you got the option because maybe they're working and maybe they want to reply.
That's it. It depends on the person, doesn't it? I think you've got to treat every different person slightly differently.
It's management, isn't it?
Yeah, like I did actually a really helpful course, and it was kind of about managing people. Just because I didn't necessarily think I was that good at it, and it was one thing that was quite interesting was like I've always kind of understood being speak to people like how you'd like to be spoken to. And what he said on the course was the opposite. It was like, speak to people how they would like to be spoken to, not how you would. Because every person reacts differently to different tones, to different things like that. Point. And that was one thing that I actually at the time was like, wow, yeah, because I speak to my store manager a totally different way than I speak to someone else. But he was on the course as well, and he was like, no, I love how you speak to me like that. And then we asked someone else, and like, if he said this to you, what would you like? But I hate it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true.
So they wouldn't react well at all to how if I'd said the same thing to them, but he'd react like amazingly to it. So it's kind of understanding how you're speaking to people.
And what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout the process?
I've probably learned that I'm a lot more determined than I thought I was with it. Like, you know, there's challenging times and there's tough times, and no, I probably did always think I was determined, but it just never give up. Like, you just keep going, don't you? I probably didn't think. I'll tell you what, this is true. I didn't think I'd be able to remember anywhere near as much stuff as I do remember about data and different things like that.
Okay, so going back to like your school times.
Exactly that. Like if you looked at me at school, I was sitting in a class, couldn't remember anything, like nothing. You asked me to listen to music, I'd listen to the same song over and over and over and over. I can't remember a single lyric from it, even the chorus, nothing. I'm useless. But then now when I'm looking through my own data and I'm looking at certain days and what we've done on that day, what the margin's been, what's that, I can remember that. That's
interesting, you know. Because do you think that's just because it's that important to you?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It must be that important to me that, like, even when I try my hardest on other things, I can't remember them. But I can remember what I need to remember here.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Because I feel like, for example, there's no such thing as a lazy person, for example, but they just haven't found the thing to get them excited.
100%. 100%. And that's one question I always ask people, you know, like when, say, someone's just chilling, it's like, what do you get really excited about? Like, what do you buzz off? And it's like, because that's realistically what makes people happy, innit? Like,
yeah. That's why I think it's important not to like try and label people all the time. Like I always try and be really mindful with my kids not to label them about anything. Or I hate when other people try and label them. For example, if like someone comes and says hello to them and they're shy, and they might say to them, "Oh, you're quite shy, aren't you?" I'm like, I don't want them to say that. Don't label them as shy, because it might just be your face.
Yeah.
Because I know that some other times when you meet someone else, they're buzzing, they're excited, so they're not shy. It's just they react to different things or different people.
100%.
So no, that's interesting. That's a massive point as well. That you couldn't remember nothing.
Yeah.
You have your own business now. You're fucking.
Yeah, that's it.
You can remember everything perfectly.
Like Rain Man.
One other question before we go into the quick fire round. How has running a successful business helped you with like your own personal finances and money management?
Actually, this is quite an interesting question because my missus laughs her head off. Like, I have spreadsheets after spreadsheets of like our own personal stuff.
Bro, I'm the same, yeah, but I'm so old school, bro, and I'm so shit at computers that I just have bare notebooks.
Yeah, but that makes it's just the same, and it's just a different way. But her and the whole family laugh at me. They're like, "Oh, have you got a spreadsheet for that?" Yeah. And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually do." Yeah. So it's definitely helped me like that. But then I think also looking at like cash flow. But it's helped me massively with personal things. It's like investment, like what does then what I do with my own. What do I do with my own money? Do I just spend it, or do I invest it and do things like that? It's like we were chatting before. I like watches, so I buy watches. I don't buy them for any other reasons. Like some of them I don't actually wear. They just keep them in the safe. But every year they're going up in value and up in value, and it's kind of like that's a lot better than having that money in my bank, losing however much percent every single year. Right now, an awful lot because of what's going on, but it's just also stuff like that. Like I try and I do have a percentage of what I earn that goes into different investments, like try bits on crypto and different things like that. I've done some other stuff with NFTs, but I can't say that I did it very well. But I always
you had a little dabble in it.
Yeah, it was everyone's talking about. I had to learn it. Like for me, I love learning, and if I don't know something, I'll just keep listening to things, keep practicing or keep learning until I understand it. And like I just was not much money at all, but bought a few and was like seeing how it was all going and understanding it. It's just worth the same as what I pay for it. So it's like it's not I've not lost anything really. Yeah. It's just I know
you was probably willing to lose what you
because for me that's part of the learning. I think if you're just going to sit and watch rather than do, you're not really learning or you would do it. But
yeah, well, I know you mentioned a little bit of interest in property.
Yeah, so we've got a warehouse as well, which is commercial property. So that was always something that we wanted to do. Is rather than always renting a warehouse, is purchase a warehouse for the business because it uses a warehouse. It makes perfect sense. We're in it, and then also
tough to get them though, isn't it?
Yeah,
right for you.
Our first warehouse, which we outgrew, we found quite easily, but then most recently it was super hard and also because of the demand that was going on in the world. You had the whole usual, we'd agreed something, price changed, then it was like there was a lot of messing about and backing out and different things like that. But I just look at that more of a long-term plan, like when the time comes, when the business isn't, may not be in my hands, or, in the future, if we do ever sell out and we keep the warehouses, it's like, that's, it's your own business that you can run there. And then, business partner, we have a few little like HMO houses.
Okay, nice.
That kind of, again, just in the background.
Between the two of you?
Yeah, we've got, a little residential company. So they're all just like investments, now that in the future kind of are more for the future. We just leave them there, and, any money that comes in, we reinvest in another one and just keep building it. So when the time comes, we've got another business.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's important. It's just always kind of thinking forward rather than, just for the moment right now. Like years ago, I would never have been bothered. I would just wanted to go on a holiday, do all these things like that. But now it's like you can afford to pay for the holidays with your investments
that's the one
you're doing. And I think that's what it's all about. It's like everyone will go back to probably when they first read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's like investments over liabilities or assets over liabilities. And
it's cliche book, but it's game changer, man.
I can remember I was driving back from London with my dad, and I just played the audiobook in the car, and he was never really into any of these audiobooks that I was listening to, and he actually, when we got home, he's like, that's actually the best thing I've ever listened to. And we both just chatted about it for ages, and we never really chatted about business or anything like that. It was just cars all the time. And then kind of just live by that on a permanent basis. But you can just keep going with that. It's like
definitely
what the rent that comes in from things. What are you doing with that in the meantime? Or what, like every different little thing. If you didn't want to spend any money at all, you could make so much money, but you've got to have a certain part of your life where you want to enjoy it and have fun too.
Yeah. All right, nice. No, let's go into the quick fire round to wrap this up. So it's usually supposed to be minimal questions, but no guests do it. They just say what they want. So, all right, we'll start with the most amount of money you spent on a night out.
About 10K.
10K.
But it was a Couture Club party, so that was just the bill, the bar bill.
Was that was it expected or was it a bit surprised?
No, I think I had it in budget, so it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad, but it's the most I spent.
All right, good answer.
On the bar.
Silliest purchase that you've made, where you've done it and you thought that was fucking stupid.
Oh my God, that's the hardest thing ever. Silliest purchase. Fake watch when I was younger.
Fake watch. All right, cool. Alive or dead, who would you want to spend a day with?
Alive with DiCaprio. I just love to pick his brain.
Right. And you can replace Scott in a good way. He said he's done with the business. He wants to leave. He wants to go live up in like Dubai or something. You can replace him with any business partner in the world.
Yeah, I'll get Elon Musk in.
Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Fashion brand.
Just get him in just because of the hype right now. Hype man.
Cool. How do you want to be remembered? And how do you want Couture Club to be remembered?
I want it to be remembered for one of the best brands to come out of Manchester and sold globally around the world.
Not too far from the Manchester one, huh? Would you put anyone above you in Manchester? What kind of brands are there in Manchester?
There's some big brands. There's a lot of big.
Oh, you mean brands in general?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of big brands in Manchester, but.
Yeah, nice. And 3 people that you'd recommend for this podcast.
Oh, 3 people, quick.
Or as many as you can think of, 1 or 2. Or first person to pop into.
Oh my God, I can't think. You've put me blank. I told you I had a blank day today as well, didn't I? 3 people for this.
All right, sit on that. Give you one more.
David Giovanni.
Okay, I like that.
That's one.
Okay, cool.
Gotta get him on.
Leave that. That first one popped your head. 3 must for building a successful fashion brand.
Understand why you want to do it. Care about the product and everything that you're putting out there. I think that's super important. And make sure that you can manage your finances in the right way.
Nice. And last one, talk me through the ornament that I asked you to bring in. I think that's maybe...
Well, I had it behind my desk and I was thinking it'd look good on your shelf. And we've actually got we're doing a limited edition 7th birthday jacket for our 7th birthday that's coming up next month, like I said.
Yeah.
And there's a basketball that comes with it, with the jacket. So I thought I'll have the new one and you can have this one that stayed behind me for the last year or two. It might bring you some good luck.
Yeah, man.
And that was it. Just thought it looked nice.
Bit of free promo as well.
Oh yeah, that's one.
No, perfect. No, I loved having you on, man. That was a really good chat. Appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Brilliant time.